Welcome to Guitars and Gadgets. I'm Tom Seitz, and I got a really cool story for you about a guitar from the 80s. Check it out. Welcome to Guitars and Gadgets. I'm Tom Seitz, and what you're probably sitting there thinking is, I never thought I'd see Tom playing a Kramer. Well, I got a pretty cool story for you about this Kramer, and of how I bought it twice in a 33-year period. But first I'm going to tell you about the guitar a little bit. This is a 1987 Kramer Striker. It comes from the factory, and this was one of the coolest things about Kramers in the 80s. They were the only guitar manufacturer who was putting actual Floyd Roses, locking tremolo systems on their guitars from the factory. So it has a an actual Floyd Rose 2 tremolo system, and it actually has Seymour Duncan pickups in it. Now, they don't say Seymour Duncan on them, but Seymour Duncan made these pickups for Kramer to put in their guitars. And the same thing with the tuning keys up here. The machine heads are made by Shaler. And this was one of the cool things about the Kramer guitars in the 80s, was the fact that they had all this quality stuff already on the guitar. You didn't have to buy this stuff extra to beef your guitar up. And I bought this guitar in 1987, and the cool story I got behind it is me and a friend of mine, Danny Skinner, hey buddy, him and I and his two brothers played in a band together. And we used to go up to New York Music almost every day. I mean, we practically lived in that place and pretty much spent every penny we had that we could get away with buying guitars and amps and trying everything out in the world, and back then I was trying to discover what kind of guitar I really liked. I went through so many different guitars, it's unreal, until in the past like 20 years you've seen that I've kind of settled on Gibson Les Pauls and Epiphone Les Pauls, but before that I went through so many different guitars, and this was one of them. Danny, my friend Danny Skinner, he was he really liked the Charvel Jacksons, and I think he stuck with that pretty much his life because that's what he liked. I could never get used to the wider flat necks that they had, so I did buy a Charvel one time, but I ended up trading it back in because I couldn't get used to the neck on it. Well, in '87 I bought this guitar because Danny and I were invited to New York Music, if anybody remembers that place. New York Music in Boardman, Ohio was having a guitar seminar with none other than Al Petrelli. And if you don't know who Al Petrelli is, at that time he had just joined Alice Cooper's band as the lead guitarist. And that was back when Alice was doing the song Poison was real popular. And so we got to come in after hours and meet Al Petrelli for a guitar seminar. And he was really cool, and he was a Kramer representative. He played Kramer guitars and stuff, so you know, being young, I kind of bought into it and I thought it was cool. And, you know, sure enough, a couple weeks later, I had to have this guitar, so I bought it. This wasn't the model that Al played, but it was the one in the Kramer line that I could afford at the time, and that's why I bought it. And I got rid of it for a weird reason. The headstock busted, and when that happened, I didn't want it no more. I didn't want to mess with it. I just wanted to buy another guitar, you know. So my father-in-law at the time, he said, well, I can fix that. I'll buy it off of you. So he bought it off of me. He fixed it. And then he sold it to his brother. And then his brother give it to his son for Christmas or birthday or something. And he held it and kept it all these years. Well, 33 years later, I run into him, and I gotta give a shout out to Jamie Willison. I run into him, and we're hanging out and talking, and he says, I got a guitar at home that belonged to you. And I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, it's from the 80s. He said, you know, and he repeated the story I just told you. And so he ended up and was kind enough to sell it back to me. So now I've had it twice in 33 years. It's pretty cool. And, you know, I think it's a pretty cool thing for me to hold on to just because of that reason. And it's pretty cool sounding guitar, you know. I mean, you just heard it. And, you know, give me some comments of what you think of it. And thanks for watching the video. And as always, please subscribe to my channel. And I'll be bringing some future things your way. All right, we'll see you again, man.